You guys are set? Tram? Okay.
That she is on the roads. Why? She's going to be here for late.
Yeah.
It was watching.
But it's not specific.
We're meeting.
Request.
You're set?
The application.
And there's Steve Cohen. Yeah.
Towards the.
Welcome to the Monday, April 7th Hartland Selectboard meeting. First item on our agenda are approval of the March 17th regular minutes and executive session. I would entertain a motion to do so.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jim. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Clyde. Any discussion?
So those two sets of minutes for that.
Correct. There's three sets of minutes. There's the organizational meeting, the regular meeting, and then the executive session.
We have two.
We should.
Sorry for not see this one.
See,
What are you showing here?
organizational meeting,
Okay.
regular meeting.
Yeah, no, I have the regular and I have the
Okay.
executive session.
Trick that not fully developed yet.
Teach me to come early.
That's right.
Excuse me, I don't have any.
Why, Tracy, okay with them?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Ms. Tom,
Nothing from Mr. Kennedy.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, moving on to the warrants for the accounts payable through today, April 7th. I need a motion to accept them.
I'll make that motion as well.
Thank you, Jim. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trace. Any discussion? Lots of yellow here.
Oh, okay.
I get a little bit of yellow.
Okay.
My first yellow is the library water fountain
Yes,
for, looks like about 3,500.
yes. That was the water fountain bottle filler station that they put in.
Okay.
That turned into it was supposed to be a dual water fountain bottle filler. It turned into a dual water fountain dual bottle filler. After much consternation.
Dual meaning two fountains?
It was always going to be two fountains.
Okay.
Two fountains. One was supposed to have a bottle filler. After some back and forth with Coda and Coda, it turned into two fountains and two bottle fillers.
There must have been a quote.
So Tracy handled all of that. Because this came out of out of the library budget.
Okay, so we need water. We'll go to the library.
Right, correct. Tom is now on. I believe this is Tom joining the meeting now.
Okay. On page 2, I'm curious as to why we're paying the city of Lebanon for roadside rubbish.
We paid them because we're cleaning out the pit.
You're cleaning out the what?
The pit down that the highway crew uses.
Okay.
So you'll see tires and things like that. This is stuff that's been collected down there for years that we're working on getting rid of and cleaning it up a little bit.
Okay. And this is before cleanup day?
This is just a long overdue project, is what this is.
Right.
So, and this, I don't see it on here, but is that a tire recycling?
The tire recycling is on there as well. It's
Looks like on page 4.
Yeah.
Evergreen recycling.
yeah, evergreen recycling.
Okay, so different.
Yeah, different thing, but it's all the Lebanon landfill, evergreen recycling. That's all related to
The cleanup.
cleanup of the pit.
Maybe we should be saving those tires and grind them up for our Quechee Road project. It would not be a regular meeting without asking on page 4, $83,000 for the Ford
This is,
F600. Is this, tell me it's the new one.
this is the new one. This is the new truck that was approved. No, this is the F600, not the six-wheeler.
So,
No, that shows up out.
this is a one-ton, it's about the size of a one-ton. What's it replacing?
This is replacing a six-wheeler.
It is,
Yes,
but it's smaller, sounds like.
it is smaller, but it's been determined to still meet the needs of what the crew needs it for.
And you guys have 2 10-wheelers today?
We have two 10-wheelers, yeah, like 2 10-wheelers, a six-wheeler, or two six-wheelers now. We're replacing one of them with this F600 and the 550, which will be discussed.
Okay, but you're gonna continue with 2 10-wheelers into the future?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
And this is a six-wheeler also.
Yes, but it is not a dump truck. It is an F600, so there's no CDL required to drive it.
Okay. So
But there's no body.
Right.
yeah, so the questions that I was getting to is earlier, you're not reducing your capacity to deliver what to sand or salt roads?
We are not. We are not.
Then on page 6, to, is it new car, Ford?
Yes.
Is that the F350 that has been giving us so many problems?
That is the F550, yes.
550.
That has been giving us,
That's a 2-ton?
that's a, no.
I don't know my Ford.
So it's the red truck. This is the one that's been problematic for about, I don't know, we've had it for 6 years, so let's say 6 years. This is the engine blew on it. It is,
And it was in for a new engine.
it is still in for a new engine.
The second engine.
Correct. Replacing the engine that was replaced. Thankfully, we're still under warranty, but there's still gonna be an expense to us.
Okay, so that's the key thing. We didn't know what was under warranty last time.
Correct. So since we're talking about it, it is under warranty. There's gonna be a price difference. The engine manufacturer reimburses at X rate, new car charges at a different rate. We are responsible for that difference. And we're trying to track down exactly what that's gonna be right now.
Was there any indication of what failed?
No, not that I'm aware of.
So under weed, precast culverts, are those metal culverts?
Those are culverts, plastic.
The ones for-
Yep, those are just road
normal
culverts, yep. That was last year's budget. We're just spending down last year's budget. They're able to get out and start doing some culverts before June, so we'll have them on hand, so when they're ready.
The 3/4 bond payment, is that a monthly payment, or it's 9,700?
Where's that one?
Page 7 of it, top of the page.
Mern, why is it
So we have an
9,700?
interest payment in May and an interest and principal payment in November.
Oh,
Interest twice a year
okay, interest every 6 months and then.
And then the principal payment.
in the fall. So it's interest in the spring, interest and principal in the fall.
Yeah, I'm saying the total is what's been budgeted.
That's correct. Yes,
This is interest?
yes.
Are there any other questions? You're set? Trace, you're set? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. It passes. Tom, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. Are there any adjustments to the agenda tonight? I know of one. We want to vote on changing the membership of the Planning Commission from 9 to 7, something that was discussed a couple of meetings ago. Are there any other adjustments?
Just a clarification, what's the executive session for?
HR related items?
We should probably just put like personnel.
Put that, yeah.
on there, so it's clear.
I agree with you, Jeff. Okay. Okay, are there any public comments
we don't need to take it an action to add the membership change, do we? I mean, do we need to take an action to change the agenda, or do we just change it?
I didn't think we did, but I'm not sure.
I make a motion that we add planning commission membership size to the agenda.
I'll second the motion, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Are there any public comments? I would like to make a brief comment. As chair, was invited to a meeting with Governor Scott today. He had a catchy phrase. It's Windsor County Day. He's visiting the various counties in the state. And he met with select board chairs at the Springfield Fire Department. Fairly well attended. I actually think there were over half the attendees were members of various departments rather than real select board chairs. And there was an awful lot of people there. The topic was public safety. I mentioned a couple of things about Hartland that, and I want to thank Chief Ryan Palmer for getting me the information over the weekend. It took a little while to get, but I had it. Hartland's really between two major drug trafficking areas. Listening today to the problems in Springfield, and White River representatives were not there, but we know there's issues. I think the biggest concern is leakage kind of coming from those areas into town, and there's not a lot we can do about that other than what we are doing today. I spoke about some mental and physical health initiatives, highlighted that we have the walking path and that we're looking at paths for the whole property, and that drew great attention as a positive sign of something we were doing. And then something that I've mentioned before with the, on the mental health side, trying to counter what the Surgeon General has declared one of the major health issues of the aloneness issue. Before I spoke, some of the emergency crews were talking about the repeat calls they were getting. And I had mentioned that our EMS crew had also mentioned the same. And our EMS crew is now in touch with our community nurses to reduce repeat calls that do not result in a transfer. So they're getting calls and the person just wants someone to be in the house for something. So that's a great subtle change that's happening to get the community nurse involved. Aging in Hartland is starting a friendly visitor program incorporating the 7th and 8th grade students with an adult to visit people. And the final thing is an observation. I think we're doing pretty well when I listen to the other towns with two-person police forces and they're not able to hire people and they're having just a lot of problems. And I wrote down drugs, because again, I feel a bit naive sometimes, but there's an awful lot of drug trafficking going down. Okay. So, and I thought Scott did a very good job of listening and just making, his summary were the two things that we hear every time we hear him as issues for Vermont, or housing and the lack of citizens in the state and the demographic trends that are there. Okay, moving on to old business. John, you want to update us on Station Road, and Trace, you're involved here too?
Trace, do you want to?
Sure.
To give us an update on where we are?
Well, I have, we met today, John and I and BJ, to just walk through all of the concerns that Mrs. Clark and I discussed at a meeting a week ago. And now we're going to probably talk to the people that live along that stretch and come up with some solutions.
Yeah,
We
there's
have
some
some thoughts in mind, but we're not going to deliberate on anything yet.
Yeah, I think there's some short-term and long-term actions. Some short-term actions, you know, kind of cleaning up some of the parking area and making it more clear about where parking is and is not allowable. And then some of the longer-term actions, like Trace alluded to, are going to need some more thought and discussion amongst the board.
But we definitely have a grasp on everything that's there and have some good ideas to fix things. So head in the right direction.
Good, thanks for your time, Chris.
Yeah, not a problem. Absolutely.
Sherry, any comments?
So you're going to clean up the parking area, but maintain that boundary line?
You're looking at me, but.
The boundary line?
You're going to maintain the boundary line?
Yes, that was discussed, but again, you and I had a conversation about this earlier, that we were not gonna make any rulings or decisions
Right.
on anything until we have talked to the people that live along that stretch. So we did review everything that was in our notes that we talked about that day. And then I will come back and you and I can walk that whole space again and another time, probably with the church. We need to meet with them and talk to them about some things that are gonna possibly happen.
But in the meantime, the ordinance is still present and needs to be complied.
Right, I don't think there's a lot of, the ordinance that was possibly broken was during a church service. That's the latest issue that we've had, and there is no more scheduled at this point in time.
July 4th.
Yeah, July 4th, and at that point, we'll have all of this taken care of before we get
No
there.
parking on Station Road. Except for in the parking.
There are parking spaces on Station Road that I don't think we would close down for the 4th, but it's been discussed that there's plenty of parking in other places for the 4th. And also, there will be some signage that indicates where people can park, but I didn't really want to get into that today.
Okay, moving on to the Quechee Road summer maintenance.
Sure, so just so folks are aware, we know we continue to kind of plan for what the road crew will be doing this summer along Quechee Road, kind of some ditch work, looking at some of those cross culverts. Clyde, you mentioned we, had that, and then starting to address some of the potholes. We'll touch on that again later in the meeting. So, and there's still the kind of outstanding question on the long-term fix, which we should have as an agenda item here in the coming months or so. So we can start to plan for that as well.
Okay. And that last point is something that you and I have to keep on top of.
Yep.
Okay. A few months ago, we had a road surface management system report given to us, and we now have a new in a binder report handed to us tonight. John, can you tell us what's different? And
so this is some of the feedback that we've gotten from Everett Hammond, who had completed the study for us. If you recall correctly, when he presented, there was two options in kind of a budget scenario at the end of the report. In further discussion with Everett, we've kind of narrowed that down to one option. And we will be taking this and kind of implementing it as we're looking at paving, not only this summer, but in the future as well. So, Everett's, if you recall, was very clear that not addressing the worst roads first. The worst roads are already kind of gone. So where is our money best spent in terms of doing paving with the budget that we set aside for paving? So how do we spend it in the most appropriate way?
and our town highway foreman's on board with this.
Yep.
I know he was part of the.
He was involved through the whole process and meeting with Everett and kind of showing him around. And so we will use this. It won't just go on the shelf to collect dust. It will get used as we plan for paving projects.
I'm wondering if, say in late May, early June, or late May, BJ could come back and, you could let us know what you are tackling with this.
Yeah, so we can talk about, we should know long before late May what we're planning to pave this summer. So we're speaking about it today, in fact, so.
And the summer maintenance schedule, as far as culvert work is concerned, that's also, you'll come back to the board with that?
For
the Quechee Road?
For the Quechee Road, yes. We'll come back with a report for the board about Quechee Road maintenance. Other road maintenance, other culverts will they come up as we'll go away throughout the course of the summer. There's not necessarily a long-term.
I would normally not ask that, but given the Quechee Road is part of that long-range $6.1 million piece, I think we need to keep abreast of what we're with that. So, Tom, any questions at all on that?
No.
Okay, moving on to new business. We have the Planning Commission candidate that I believe, John, you received the paperwork?
Yeah, so you have in your packet, you have the application for John Magliocco, who previously served on the Planning Commission. He simply did not get his paperwork back in time for the last meeting when you reappointed Kay Donahue as well. So John previously served on the board. You have your application in front of him. It's a fairly straightforward process from here.
Okay.
Dan, did you have any?
Just any comments on John's appointment?
I'll make the motion that we appoint John Magliocco to, what's the term, 3-year term?
It's a 3-year term.
To a 3-year term on the Planning Commission.
I'll second the motion. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, we have, my notes are confusing here. Do we have 2 additional planning commission?
There are 2 additional Planning Commission agenda items. Okay. There's the membership and the town plan discussion.
Okay, why don't we do what I expect is going to be easier, the membership adjustment. We had talked at a prior meeting of changing the membership on the Planning Commission from 9 to 7. At a recent Planning Commission meeting, both Tom and I were there, and the Planning Commission voted in agreement of that. So I think
it's worth noting that the Planning Commission meeting where that was voted on was there was not a sufficient group of folks to constitute a quorum. There was a discussion. It's reflected in the minutes that there was a desire to move from 9 to 7, but any formal motions would not be a valid motion.
But the decision is in the hands of the select board. The Planning Commission can speak on it, but doesn't necessarily control it.
Correct, because they are an appointed Planning Commission, the select board can simply through action reduce the size of the Planning Commission.
Right. So whether there was or was not a quorum really doesn't impact this.
It does not. I just wanted to be clear that even though there was a meeting, the quote-unquote meeting.
Yeah. Right. Our intention of bringing it to the Planning Commission was to see what they thought,
right?
As opposed to was just making a decision. So I think we're.
Dan, is there any general feedback?
That's a fair. Planning Commission supports it.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we reduce the permanent membership of the Planning Commission from 9 to 7.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, fine. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Tom?
I just wanted to make sure, John, we don't have to have a hearing or anything on that. We can just do that at a regularly scheduled meeting.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And just so we're clear, there are 2 people have resigned from the 9-member commission. So reducing it to 7. Now they still have a full board, and no one is losing a seat, if you will.
Okay. Additional planning commission item tonight is the, where we are with the readoption. I can say my head has been swirling for the last 2 weeks trying to know exactly where we are with the process of the readoption of the 2017 plan, and keeping that separate from moving forward with the 2025 new plan. So we are at a point where we needed to essentially cancel this evening's meeting, but I'll stop and defer to John to let him walk through where we are, and we can just discuss a couple of options.
Sure. So there had been a plan to readopt the 2017 town plan to fill in what would be a few months gap in terms of coverage, because the 2017 town plan is set to expire in the middle of May. There was a series of missteps, some on my end, taking a little bit of bad guidance, and then there was this unknown checklist that needed to be completed by the planning commission. There was a very small window in which it could have taken place, but given the fact that the meeting last Wednesday when the planning commission met to talk about this and then took some action was not a valid meeting because there wasn't a sufficient quorum, essentially invalidates any motions they took there, and therefore there is no path at this point to readopt the 2017 town plan before the middle of May. Therefore, it would be my recommendation that we simply move forward with adopting the 2025 town plan. Looking at the public hearing notices and the requirements, I would say it's a 60 to 75 day process at best. And then if we start that soon, we'll have a town plan sometime June 2025. I am meeting with Peter Gregory, who's the executive director of the Two Rivers Regional Commission, and Kevin Geiger tomorrow morning at 9 to map out a specific time frame and timeline of the actions that both the town need to take and the planning commission needs to take, and we will have that and pass that along to those who need to take those actions.
Two Rivers also needs to take action, right? They need to approve.
Correct, but that can happen concurrently as the planning commission is scheduling their first public hearing, and they need to get copies of the town plan together and mailed to adjoining towns, things along those lines.
Is the 2025 town plan static now? It's ready to be shipped?
Yeah, it's pretty much ready to go.
So it's important to note that there will be a gap in town plan coverage as a result of these various missteps along the way.
So, John, I respectfully disagree with your approach here. I don't think we are going to be able to adopt the 2025 town plan because I believe that there will be significant edits made to that plan that's going to go back to the planning commission. And my suggestion would be have the planning commission with a quorum just go through. They're very, very close to having it at the 2017 one done. And that'll give us more time. So I have been reading the town plan, and I'm going to have a lot of comments on the town plan.
Yep. So, Tom, that's one approach. My line of thinking and moving forward with the 2025 would be to adopt it and then as expeditiously as possible. And then if we need to make those revisions, we can make those revisions and re-adopt it.
I don't know if it can be approved by the Regional Planning Commission.
In its current form.
Yes.
Okay.
But we need them to make a comment on that, right?
The Regional Planning Commission?
Right. We need to decide. We need their feedback.
They
sooner
provide
rather
us
than
the
later.
first set of comments, I believe, before it comes to the select board. Yeah. I also, John and I just spoke briefly today about this, and I also respectfully disagree with him that moving forward with the 2025 plan, I just don't know how long it's going to take. The best case scenario is one thing, but it is a town plan, and we're going to be asking for feedback. The second is I really don't feel comfortable about passing a town plan knowing that we want to make amendments within 6 months or so on. So what I did ask John to do with the meeting with the Two Rivers Regional Planning Commission is to play out both scenarios tomorrow to see how quickly we could get the readoption of the 2017 plan done without it interfering with anything that's going on with the 2025 plan, so that we have a backup, even though there may be a gap of weeks, hopefully not months, but at least we would have an active town plan.
I think it's the right thing to do to map it out so we can see it, right? Because right now we're kind of speculating and we don't really know, how big this is and how big that is.
That's right. I think we can do the best case scenario, and as any project plan, you need to double it,
Back in January, I was a strong advocate for readopting the 2017 town plan. Given where we are today, I feel like it's more work that's going to get piled on both select board, the planning commission, and, potentially double the number of hearings we have to have. I think it may be time to step on the gas on the 2025 town plan and put the 2017 in the rearview mirror, but I think John's analysis will help us understand.
Well, to me, I think the most important issue on this will be, and John, I don't know if they're going to be able to tell you tomorrow, is can Two Rivers approve the town plan in its present form? And I think if they're willing to approve it, then I think then we can consider your approach. But I don't know if they can or can't at this juncture.
I think that's a huge question, Tom.
Yeah. Tom, I just want to clarify, you're talking about Two Rivers approval of the new town plan, the
2025, yes. Yeah. 2017, once the planning commission has a quorum, because they told us at the meeting last week when they didn't have a quorum, they met the requirements of the tasks they need to do to move their plan forward. So more than anything for the 2017, they just need to have a quorum to say, yes, they've done this. And then it goes to us and we do our public hearing and we're kind of done. I mean, it's quite simple. The new plan is a much more complex process. And it's new language and statute and so on and so forth. So, but I have not read it through, but Two Rivers needs to do their due diligence by reading it, and I don't know if they have either. But John can find that out tomorrow.
Yeah. Dan, you're a player in this, and I don't know if you feel comfortable offering an opinion about, we're at this juncture of readoption or.
I mean, the reason I came is if in any scenario, our next monthly meeting is not till early May now, so if we could have an emergency meeting, I don't know if that's the right term, an interim meeting that we could call, and we'd be willing to do that, so we don't have to, so you're not waiting a month for that first step for us to get the quorum to, so.
Okay.
Just so I think by midday tomorrow, 'cause I'm meeting with them in the morning, we'll have a, kind of a path, option A and option B.
Okay.
We will, I can send out an email to everybody, both the select board and planning commission with those two options. And if there's a viable path to readopt the 2017 town plan, in a much significantly shorter time frame, then yes.
And so I think that's great. I just throw a caution to both groups that we can't debate the outcome. Once we get these options, we've got to get back to an open meeting to debate the outcome.
So in that discussion, in that summary, along with my recommendation on path forward.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
Why would it be debated if we've already passed the 2017? It's already been in use for all these years. If we just want to review it and repass it, why is that gonna take, does it have to be reviewed by?
We have to have multiple public hearings on it.
You have to have a public hearing to get it, that plan to.
Two of them, in fact.
Yeah,
And they're gonna be spaced
in the
out.
little green book.
Yeah, little, they're not so little, yeah.
But even re-adopting?
Even for readopting,
But we don't need to have a public hearing.
correct. But because we are a large town under Vermont statute, the select board needs to have two public hearings spaced approximately 15 days apart.
Oh, okay. So then if they had an emergency meeting and then we spaced 2 meetings 15 days apart and we have plenty of time to get it covered before the 2017 plan expires completely?
We'd still miss.
I think we're gonna be real close.
Real close?
Weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Good questions.
Best case, the time we've lost was our meeting with, that the vote wasn't valid, and whenever we can meet again to cure that has added to the time, but I don't see that it's any worse than that.
Well, it would be, just hypothetically, if you meet next Wednesday,
Yeah.
we would need to post something in the newspaper with 15, to get that published, 15 days notice before the select board can have their first public hearing. So that probably puts us at the end of April already.
That would have been a step you could have taken had our meeting, if we had had a quorum.
Correct. Correct. So there was a public hearing scheduled this evening, right?
But it sounds like we'd still need to meet first before the notices went out to make sure we were all on board with whatever one of the two directions we did.
It would be preferable if everybody could meet prior, yes.
Can I just ask one more question?
I disagree with that. I think that John can make the decision after talking with Two Rivers about whether or not we could just warn another public hearing once we know the planning commission is going to be meeting. I don't think we need to wait again for us to decide whether to go for 17. John is going to know after talking with Two Rivers a little bit more certainty. And so if it appears that it may take more than, say, 90 days to approve the 2025 plan, then we should go back to the 2017 plan and just readopt the thing. That would be, because we've really, all we have to do for the 2017 is really just process. We just have to hold some hearings. We're not going to be commenting on it. We're just doing our due diligence.
Okay. All right, I'm comfortable having John make the recommendation and take whatever actions are needed.
Yeah. Again, just the project management side of me, I don't want the best case scenario. It never happens.
No, it'll be, so we will.
It has to be realistic.
Right, it has to be realistic, absolutely. So, following up on tomorrow, if there's a need to, if we're gonna move forward with the 2017 town plan, I will let the chair know of the planning commission that the meeting needs to get scheduled, and then we will move forward with revised and rewarned public hearing notices for the papers of record.
Just a point of order, does our meeting have to be on a Wednesday? I don't think so.
It does not have to be, I would say.
It just has to be
Yeah,
warm.
whatever day we could get the quorum together.
If you need the quorum.
Yeah.
Right.
There is a planning commission meeting next Wednesday night here anyway, so.
So-
Oh, well, okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't aware.
No, I'm sorry, Conservation Commission.
Oh,
Right, so we can, logistically, we can figure out how to do it, because it could be
yeah, we can.
potentially a very short,
We've gone upstairs, yeah.
yeah.
If we just have to do that one item, it's
Yeah.
pretty quick. Because we already took the vote, now that vote was a.
Right, we're gonna have that vote again, this time in an actual meeting.
Okay, so let me try to repeat what I think we're agreeing to. Tomorrow, April 8th, John has a scheduled meeting with Two Rivers to discuss the readoption of the 2017 plan and what would be involved, if there's any surprises there. But most importantly, to create a plan with the projected times for the adoption of the new town plan. And based on that, we'll have some sense of whether or not we should go forward with the readoption steps. As Tom pointed out, they're procedural. They're not anything that we need to sort of make decisions and vote on. We just really have to have publicly warned meetings on that part. So is that what we're kind of all shaking our head for? Okay. Good. Okay. Thanks, Dan, for your input on that part.
We'll wait here.
Sounds good.
Okay. I think that's it for the planning commission.
I believe so.
We have in our packets a proposal for scanning our cemetery plots and creating new mapping. Tom, I don't know if you have a packet with the information from.
Yeah, I do. I've read it. I've seen that.
Okay, good. So John, you want to step
Yep, so
through the process with us?
this is kind of one of those long-standing future agenda items, and there's a need and to know where there are existing burial sites within the town of Hartland. The need's been raised by a few different residents or family of former residents in town. The two cemeteries that are listed in this proposal, the ones that have been asked about, there's a handful of other cemeteries that we should probably consider mapping out in future years as well. So Daryl Calkins is a Hartland resident who does this in his retirement. So he put together this proposal for us. It's so $3,500 or so total. There's existing, the cemetery has a budget of $5,100. There's also the cemetery fund, which has just over $9,000 in it. So there's plenty of money to do this work. It would be my recommendation that we move forward with this so we can get answers to those residents who have been asking for anywhere between 6 months and 18 months.
I like that he's included some previous work sites that he's completed this task, including working at the Dartmouth College. It's pretty good. I don't know where the Walker Cemetery is.
It's off Walker Road.
It's up off of County.
Okay, what the county road?
Oh,
That's
that's
the one you
Walker
can see to the left in the pasture.
Yes, okay.
So it's pretty far off the road, right? Is there an access point there?
You get Rice Road. Is closer. Rice Road's
When you
closer.
turn where
Turn up the hill.
Dana's land ends.
young Dana owns the house.
Yeah.
Just past there, you look to the left is the front way.
Yeah.
And it's
Used to be through
accessible, I guess, from the Walker family probably is in there, that's why it's the Walker Cemetery. But
Okay.
But I mean, is there public access now or is it over private land?
If you look at a map, a town highway map, there shows a road leading across the property towards the cemetery.
I just, the last time I drove by when the leaves were down, I didn't
Billy, there's a road
notice,
there.
I didn't notice it. There's a road there.
And it almost comes out onto,
Onto Rice,
Rice Road.
onto Rice Road, right.
Walker Road does pop up to Rice Road.
Okay. The only reason I ask is if there's no public access, it might not be the right cemetery
Right.
to work on.
Tom, this has been something you've had interest in, or do you have any questions or comments?
I'd like to, if it's all right, is to send the proposal to Dan Moranci, who's been really involved in the cemetery stuff. He probably knows the cemetery stuff better than anybody else in town. And just, and he could certainly answer Jim's question about whether or not we think that that's the best cemetery. The reason Walker was brought up at one time by me is that there is a resident or a family member who would like to be buried there, who is deceased. That was one of the reasons we brought that up. But certainly the one on Weed Road is a certainly
Land around it.
Right. Then there's interest in both of these cemeteries, which is why these two specifically were chosen. We've had requests from residents.
And this is our pilot, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Tom, are you able to get a copy to Dan, or should?
Yeah,
we-
I can get a copy. I just gotta, yeah.
Okay.
What's the other cemetery? What's the other cemetery?
I don't think we need an action to.
No, if we want to get feedback from Dan Moranci, then there's no action needed.
Okay.
But what action did you expect?
Well, I mean, sorry. No, there was no action needed. This is informational only. This is in the budget.
Yeah.
This is a project that's been ongoing and needs to happen in the town.
Yep. Okay.
Sure.
And John, not to belabor this, but if you wanted to start on weed and start doing that, that would be great. You know,
Sure. So I will get in contact with Daryl.
I will. I'll get something to Dan by tomorrow.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
I mean, so Tom, we're not gonna change unless there's a compelling reason to change, right?
Yeah, I think what we're really trying to get from this is to find it sounds like 2 plots where we will be able to make available to residents. We don't want to me, spend a lot of money where there's only availability, say, for one person, for instance. That we would like to pick a cemetery that has some capacity, is how I look at this.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on.
Yep.
The next new business item are the model guidelines of conduct. In other words, a conduct policy. We talked about this. We have a set of procedures to guide our actions as a select board, but this is a slightly different approach that I believe would fit in between our procedures and the code of ethics that the state is moving toward, and enable us to help to hold ourselves accountable for how we conduct business in the public and to some degree privately too. So this is a VLCT.
This is a VLCT. So there was 2 available things that we talked about at the last meeting. There was essentially a code of conduct or a policy similar to what the select board signs every year. And then there was the pledge, which is more what this is. And in reading through both of them, it became evident to me that the pledge, or whatever we choose to call it, is the more appropriate course of action, because we're talking about this would be used for across all boards and committees and commissions in town. So this is not something that would be signed individually, but the Conservation Commission, for example, would take this, talk about it at a meeting, adopt it, sign it. And the expectation would be the same across all groups. So again, this is the model from VLCT. I think there's a few minor tweaks, just kind of reading through some of the language that we need to make it more applicable to the town of Hartland, but it's relatively straightforward. And I think it's the issue that the board is trying to address.
I picked up one thing that I wasn't quite clear about is in the third bullet point where manage my conflicts of interest according to our governing policy. I don't know what that means, unless it's our policy and procedures.
There are no, this could be, we could modify that language to make it say, the town has the word is escaping me right now. We essentially have a
Personnel policy?
Yeah, but that's not applicable to boards and commissions.
Right.
We essentially have a code that we effort to withhold when we're in public meetings. There's a word that's in there somewhere in my brain that is failing to come to the front.
Okay.
So
Memorandum of understanding.
So we could just change that language so it meets that goal.
Well, this third bullet is, I think, intended for people to identify conflicts of interest.
Right.
Like I'm approving this project, but my brother-in-law is the chief principal.
Right.
And that's more, is that state law or is that?
So under the new kind of forthcoming ethics policy at the state, which is kind of still being rolled out, it might come out more. But this I think kind of just jumps the gun in terms of identifying those conflicts of interest.
So some of the language is odd, right? Some of it's aspirational, like set a tone and culture for civic engagement in local government. Right? I'm not sure what that means. Yeah. But in its entirety, I think it's the right direction.
Yeah.
Whether we need to make some things clear, that's fine.
Yeah, the first couple of bullet items go toward the soft aspect of behavior, whereas then the latter part is that conflict of interest piece. Yeah. Okay, so we don't have an action tonight. I hate to throw more your way, but
no, that's fine. So if this is the direction, as opposed to like the more stringent kind of code of conduct, which we discussed previously, what I can do is make it Hartland specific, take out.
I think there's enough in here that addresses that. Or there are enough.
The code of conduct.
Yeah,
aspects
there are enough bullets in here that address behavior that I think we should be fine.
Yeah. And then we would have one for the select board, one for each of the commissions, and potentially the energy committee, should we
any boards or commissions that are created by the select board, I would anticipate having to go through this. Okay. So for example, there was the policing committee that was established.
Right.
I think that we would look to anything along those lines, because there are groups of Hartland residents who are representing the town of Hartland.
Okay. It's a good catch.
So,
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. Ready to move on? Okay. A lot of excitement here tonight. Okay, the next agenda item is a yearly local emergency operations plan. It's in our packet, it's quite extensive. I didn't see any errors or suggested changes. I did not fully understand page 3.
You're not alone in not understanding page 3. So we do this every year. It's required by Vermont Emergency Management. I reviewed it. The fire chief has reviewed it. We've made the kind of minor changes as necessary, with largely all around phone numbers and names in here. Thankfully, not much has changed in the past 12 months. So page 3, just so we're clear, the typed resources. This is essentially what the town has in case of an emergency. So you can see we have, one small equipment trailer, one wood chipper, things along those lines. It's relatively straightforward. We do not have any marine vessels, thankfully.
Should we get one?
We definitely should not own anything else. No, I'm not interested in owning
I'll
more.
second that
A
one.
nice Donzi.
Would be fun, but no. So again, reviewed by myself, reviewed by the fire chief. We've made all the necessary changes. My recommendation to adopt this. Phil has to sign it, and then it gets submitted back to Two Rivers and to Vermont Emergency Management.
Okay. Just have a side question. I know you've talked in the past about a generator.
Yep, when generator grants become available, we will pursue them. At this point, I don't think we've lived this long without it, so I'm not sure that we need to spend town funds to install one.
Yeah.
But it's important, as this is the primary designated location for the Emergency Operations Center. As we've just witnessed, ice can have a kind of significant impact on the town.
And just out of curiosity, does the fire department have a generator?
I believe there's one at the fire department that provides electricity to both the fire and the highway garage.
Okay.
And is that true in North Hartland as well?
The North Hartland Fire Station, I don't know if there's a generator at the North Hartland Fire Station or not.
I can't picture it, but,
So,
okay. Again, I don't think there's an action here.
no, there is an action to approve the local emergency management plan and to have the select board chair sign it so we can send it back in.
I'll make a motion to approve the local emergency management plan.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Tom. Do we need to add the date, or just today's date would be fine, I guess?
If you, on the adoption form, it is pre-filled out that it was approved on April 7th.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Tom.
Great,
Okay.
we'll get that sent in.
Tip-off time is approaching. People are moving quickly. We have a liquor license tonight, a new one for town, from, what's the official name? The Hartland Diner.
The Hartland Diner.
No tobacco, just alcohol.
Correct.
Beer and wine or hard liquor?
All of it. It's the first class. So beer, wine, alcohol. We haven't received any feedback that there's any anticipated change in hours or business operations.
Is that feedback you asked for?
It is not. We don't ask
They've never
for it.
had one before, have they?
This is a new application.
So I'd be, not that I oppose it or whatever, I'd be curious to get more information as to what is the purpose. Is it, they think of doing catering? Are they going to, I guess, what's the purpose for wanting the license? Outside of wanting to sell booze, but they generally close at lunchtime, right? Right after lunch. They're usually not open for dinner.
Right, I mean, this looks like, it says a restaurant and bar license, so I'm assuming it's on premises.
On premise. Yeah, correct.
Right, but
We don't know that.
given their hours of operation and so on, who's taking advantage of this? Do these unfair conditions?
I think
Tom wants to know if he can go get a Bloody Mary.
I think this is, yes, this is, Bloody Marys and mimosas with your omelet and
So Tom, are you suggesting we get more feedback? I mean, or more
I'm
input?
digitally looking at John to see whether I'm overreacting to this or not, but
It
just
wouldn't hurt that.
curious, that's all.
To get some feedback as to what they're doing.
Well, when the scope applies for one, they have 3 different licenses. They have one for beer and wine, they have one for hard liquor, and they have one, of course, they have the 3rd one for outside consumption.
outside consumption.
But this is only one.
Right. So the state is changing the way they issue liquor licenses. My only feedback, Tom, is there's not a history of asking for additional information from applicants for
We haven't done a new license.
liquor licenses.
My time on the board.
Correct.
I'm not sure about Phil, if you ever remember doing a new
I
license.
don't,
Well, actually, we did one new license.
yeah, and sometimes in the
expired.
past, the representatives from Skunk Hollow have actually been here. But there was just a change in ownership of a couple of places, and we never met the new owners at all. You know, they just had a application.
I mean, I don't think it would hurt to ask for more information, given the fact that it is in the center. There are neighbors here, there are residents upstairs from that. Cheyenne wants to know if they have mimosas.
No. I think when Wise Pines did theirs, even though it was temporary, do you remember that?
Yeah,
They did come and, the representative
yeah, she did.
came and gave information on what they were looking for.
Oh, the Hartland Diner did?
No,
Wise
Wise Pines, when
Oh,
they
Wise
had
Pines,
theirs,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, the Wise Pines did not renew in the last year.
No, we haven't done that. So we can ask for more information, you know, potentially if Nicole's interested in coming to the next meeting, we can do that.
Yeah, and I think if we do it in the spirit of just trying to protect the community and understand more about the, that part. Okay.
Great, that's easy enough. I will ask Nicole and we'll just table this for now and come back to it at the next meeting.
Okay. Then we're ready to move on to the town manager update.
Yeah, here we go. I lost it for a second. So we already talked about the 550. It's that new car waiting for the engine replacement. Again, we don't know what the full cost is going to be because we don't know what new car charges for heavy truck maintenance. Martin played phone tag with new car today for at various points.
So warranty only covers parts, not
Warranty pays $80 an hour
on labor,
on labor,
but their price is higher.
but new car's price will probably be higher than that. Yes.
So parts are covered.
Parts are covered.
Portion of the labor.
It's only labor, right?
I'm just wondering, what are you gonna do if that vehicle gets fixed and it comes time for town manager update time? Are you gonna have anything to say?
No, I don't know what we're gonna talk about. We're just gonna get out early. It's gonna be great. Yeah, so it's, I'm eagerly waiting for that truck replacement.
Yes.
And if we get it, we need to get it a different color because we
Right.
all know that.
No, we're not getting any more red trucks.
No more red
Nope.
trucks.
The lister clerk position is currently posted. Currently, there's one resume. Resume review will begin tomorrow morning, with hopefully quickly moving on that and getting those any interviews scheduled and the position filled.
On that topic, did you already enter into a contract with, was it Nemrick?
So we are not entering into a contract with Nimerick. Again, we have a service agreement with Nimerick to provide a certain degree of assistance to us. In speaking with Nimerick, if we exceed that like kind of assistance under our existing contract, they will bill us by the hour. But in meeting with them and talking with them with current staff, we don't anticipate having to go significantly over what we would need. And then we will go into an existing contract beginning on July 1st.
But you're negotiating that contract now?
We're not actively, we're waiting until, there's quite a bit of work to get done right now for the rest of this year. But there's no roadblocks or hiccups anticipated with that new contract.
Why not just do the contract now?
So they prefer to wait.
Yeah.
It was their preference to wait until June to start this conversation again.
Is it a warning sign?
It is not, I don't take it as a warning sign. It seemed very,
No, because, if you don't mind my interjection, because right now is the busiest time for the listers.
Yeah, but you also have several of the towns that eliminated listers and you don't want to be the last one to the store.
we do not want to be the last one to the store. We have been actively participating in this conversation for a while now. So we will continue to do so to make sure we don't essentially lose our place in line. An RFP is out right now for the engineering work on the Jennyville Densmore Hill culverts. We got a structures grant from V-Trans to do that, so Two Rivers assisted us with putting together the RFP and getting that notice, so in a couple of weeks, we'll get those responses and have that engineering work completed, probably this summer. Then all we need to do is find the funding to pay for that culvert replacement.
Do we need a project manager, or does the state require a project manager?
So Rita's handling this one. Again, they have a little bit of, we have a little bit of assistance as as Two Rivers kind of helps us with these things anyway. And again, under that Thriving Communities grant that we are a part of with Two Rivers, Rita can use a portion of that grant to pay for her time for this project.
I did notice last week there was a piece of grader blade stuck in the ground where I believe the Wilders think their line is on the south side. And their deed does say they go to the right of way of the Densmore Hill Road.
Okay.
So there's not an awful lot of room to put it's going to be interesting.
It will be. It's a challenging site for a multitude of reasons. One of which is that stone wall kind of lines the brook coming down Densmore Hill
On one side.
on the one side. So it'll be a challenging design for whoever.
Just go wider.
I would anticipate it being similar in size to the one that was replaced along Jennyville earlier last summer.
Could be smaller. I don't know if there's enough room there.
Well, Densmore Brook's a bigger brook.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. So we have a bit of a back of the napkin hydraulic study that the river management engineer put together, so we can, use that data in the RFP.
Okay.
So
The engineers will figure it out.
the engineers will figure it out. Yes. I'm following up with Apex Lighting on the pedestrian lights for Three Corners. We anticipate there not being sufficient conduit run to all potential light locations. So we are investigating, looking at solar lights, which are being used in different settings throughout New England. There's
Which light locations are missing?
so I believe the
Because it's
one on the side by Matt Dunn's place, on that corner. We have a map
on the actual corner.
on the actual corner, right? We have a map of the kind of as-built conduit locations. From looking at it, and the lighting contractor we're working with has that as well. We're not sure that there's sufficient conduit run right now.
Okay.
So we're working to see if solar lights are an option, to see what the lumen output would be, if there are any limitations to using them in northern New England in January, February.
They were frowned upon because of that.
Correct.
I don't know. I think there's some on Sykes Avenue, but they're not in a pedestrian area.
There's a collection of them in downtown Keene, in which I have the location. I just have not found myself in Keene when it's dark. So one of these days I will have to do.
So John, would this be a combination of wired and solar lights? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm suggesting we go all solar, but if we needed to go a combination of wired and solar to get sufficient light during the dark months, that is an option as well.
Yeah. I believe there should be no question that there's wires to the immediate four-way intersection, the crosswalks there. And I think it would be important for those to be electric. And if any of the additional ones, possibly they could be solar. I'm all for solar, but the message was pretty clear. It wasn't just how they, on the dark, but after multiple dark February snowy days, what do they do in the evening? Because there's no real battery storage for these things.
Just so I'm clear, one of the corners of the intersection is missing.
It appears that one of the corners of the intersection is missing, and there's a distinct lack of conduit along the retaining wall, along the sidewalk.
Towards
The back side of the triangle.
Yeah.
So
So there were lights at the four corners, right, and there was another light by the retaining wall,
By the retaining wall, right?
but there's a pole over there already,
There is an existing pole over there.
that you can put a light on.
So again, we're just trying to figure out the best solution. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, the bottom line is let's keep moving on this.
Yep.
Every year the solar gets better, so perhaps.
There was a light on that pole, who took it? We'll get it back.
Well, I would anticipate Green Mountain Power took it.
I interject a little historical thing, that in the 40s, the streetlights were turned off at 9 o'clock, period. Because the treasurer had the switch in his garage.
I thought Clyde was gonna volunteer to hold an oil lamp there.
Yeah.
Right, so the torch lighter.
You're very good at the hearing, polls are closed.
That's how Jimmy Doyle always at the time knew it was time to go home. The streetlights went out.
So, we anticipate putting hot patch out, the week of April 21st. We're looking at renting the town of Windsor's hot box. We can get, good hot patch out. It makes it a little easier for the road crews. They're not shoveling out of the back of a truck. We're looking at doing it for the whole week. So addressing some of the larger potholes, not just along the Quechee Road, but throughout town. So,
What kind of prep do they have to do before the hot patch goes in?
so it's weather dependent, so we do need to clean out as much as we can of the potholes, but they'll do that if it's dry. It's my understanding they just take the backpack blower, blow them out, hot patch goes in. Then move on to the next one. So, but again, the week of April 21st, kind of weather dependent.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, don't, write it down in pencil, please.
My neighbors are gonna be,
There's, the highway crew's replacing a culvert on Best Road this week on Thursday. So Best Road will be closed between the Brownsville Road and Mahler, Thursday morning, until they're done.
Are they going up a size?
They are going up size, yep. Yep. There is a few things out there, no action needed, but just to keep it on folks, on your radar. We have the estimates for a heat pump at the Hartland Historical Society basement to keep moisture out of the room. It'd be nice to get that taken care of before summer comes and they start running those dehumidifiers 24 hours a day. We have two quotes for a boiler replacement at fire station number 1. This is not an immediate need like it was at the North Hartland Fire Station. It would be great to get it done before next winter comes and they start to get more use.
are they in that same $10,000 range?
They are not. It's a significantly bigger system at the primary fire station. So they're in the $20,000 to $25,000 range. But again, we have the outlines in the ARPA report that things like this was an anticipated use and a suggested use for those funds.
That's a good point, which I think is fine, but we also need to figure out what our next set of improvements are, either in this building or the rec center or both.
Okay. So it would be my recommendation, and what I would do is I can follow up with the two folks we got estimates for the Historical Society, because it would be nice as we're now in, kind of early April, to get that one scheduled and set. That's relatively small, $7,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead with what needs to be done.
Right.
But we do need to circle back to the.
We absolutely need to circle back on both Damon Hall and the rec center. Okay, and that is it.
Okay, we have future agenda items. We just already talked about the 3-corner intersection lights. We have North Hartland covered bridges, Bird Hill Road.
Still no feedback from the residents along Bird Hill.
Okay. And then the town and highway capital plan, and I just made a note to add the remaining ARPA funds to make sure we know when we do that planning.
And on the town highway capital plan, I've been working with Brian Koblik from Two Rivers on the highway capital plan. So that is largely set. We are meeting in the rest of this week or next week to talk about kind of the town assets, which are significantly smaller than the highway crews. So
John, do we have any correspondence?
there's no correspondence.
Then, we do have an executive session, there will not be an action, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we move to executive session under 1 DSA 313A3 to discuss personnel issues.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Will you leave Tom on? How does that work?
No, there's no action. So I'll just end the meeting.